Good morning and welcome to a new week with the Electric Trucker. I'm glad you're joining me as we explore the world of electric logistics. I've already driven 50 kilometers this morning, and now I'm about to get loaded. This week's plan was to do a winter comparison, but that's not happening because it's way too warm at 17 degrees Celsius. I'm on the road again because we loaded right when I arrived, which means I can cover some distance today. My first stop will be in France, just across the border near Strasbourg. I need to be there tomorrow morning, so today I'll just drive as far as I feel like, and whenever I want a parking spot, I'll stop. After that, I've got 2 more drop-offs in Germany tomorrow, one nearby and another near Freiburg. Now I've got to improvise a bit. I'd usually aim for Aral Pulse in Düsseldorf for a comfortable stop, or Olixer Heide West if I want to drop the trailer, but I can't make it to either because there was too much traffic. So I'm making a bit of an emergency stop. It doesn't really matter when I take my charging break, but it's coming up in 7 minutes, even though I still have 50 minutes of driving time left. I'm nearly fully loaded with 23.5 tons. The whole process went super smooth, and the staff there were really friendly, which is rare for a Monday morning. First, the good news. I'm able to charge without any issues. These are older tritium chargers, but they actually work pretty well, and the layout is super convenient for trucks. Now for the downside, I'm on the wrong side of the highway. The other side was completely packed with trucks. Usually truck stops fill up in the evening, and you can always find a spot around midday. This time, everything was full. After a traffic jam, all the trucks pile up, those with remaining driving time and those who don't have any left, and therefore the rest stops behind the jam fill up fast. So I kept going and made a loop to play it safe. I lost 15 minutes, but that's way better than the alternative. If I ran out of driving time, I would be forced to stop and take a 45-minute break without the option to charge. I installed a new software update over the weekend. It didn't add new features, but the cruise control behavior changed. Before, the cruise control had a max power limit, I think around 300 kilowatts. So if you needed more power to speed up, like accelerating a few kilometers per hour while going uphill, it sometimes wouldn't do it. That gave me a good feel for how much effort the truck was putting in. With the update, that's gone. Now the truck just goes all out, hitting the set speed with massive power. I didn't really mind the old system since it gave good feedback on power usage, but this one's definitely more aggressive. You can seriously push a 42-ton truck uphill with what feels like 1,000 horsepower. It's wild. Other than that, nothing new with the infotainment. Here comes the moment of truth. Let's see if I can find a parking spot. There are plenty of Aral car charging stations and a good number of Ionity chargers. Through the trees, you can even spot the truck charging stations. And there's so much space here. It's a dream. I expected it to be packed, but sometimes you're just wrong. Awesome. I'm in Bad Honnef, where that truck tuning meetup happened near this wash station. I've parked the trailer to secure my spot before this place will fill up. I've been in situations where slowly, one by one, every spot fills up. And that makes you super anxious. Reserving a spot like this is the best move. The charging station is working perfectly, and there is a system for reserving the charger. I'll have to look into getting access to their system for that. Now it's time for some dinner and an 11-hour rest period. No need to always stick to the 9-hour break limit, since you're only allowed a few of those per week. Good morning. It's 5 o'clock, pre-departure checks done, and you can really see how packed this place got overnight. My first stop today is to top up the battery before heading out. Then I'm going to Autohof Schwegenheim. It's just north of Wörth am Rhein, where the e-Actros is built. I'll charge for 45 minutes there, then head straight to my first delivery stop in France. I should get there a little after 8. I almost arrived and I can already see where the power is coming from. It's a bit windy today, and there are wind turbines right next to the station. Always nice to know that the energy I'm about to use is coming straight from renewables. The charging park itself is well done. I think they could even add another charging bay next to it. It's clearly laid out just for charging, no parking or overnight spots, which keeps it focused on quick stops. And the best part? There's a supermarket right across the street, which is super convenient for truck drivers to stock up on supplies. And I'm learning something new today. It doesn't matter if you plug the Iveco in while it's on or off, but if it's still on when you plug in, the lift axle stays up. That's how you can tell if you connected it while it was running or shut off, because normally, when it's off, the axle lowers. If you plug it in while it's running, the tachograph doesn't automatically switch to rest time, but stays on work time. That's important to know, because charging time counts as rest time, and you have to set that manually. If you turn the truck off first, it switches to rest time automatically. Thankfully, I caught it this time. But imagine standing there for 45 minutes, only for it to count as work time. Then you'd have to take another 45-minute break. I just talked to the staff inside and asked how many trucks come through here, and they said 10 to 15 a day. Let's do some quick calculations. We're charging at 300 kilowatts. A 45-minute session is about 0.75 hours. If 10 trucks come per day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, 12 months a year. Then we're looking at 540 megawatt hours annually, and now some charging point operator should comment if that is some excellent utilization. I would say, hell yeah! I just finished my delivery in France, and it was just 6 trees. It's a municipal depot here. We opened the tarp, threw the trees out, and that was it. Pretty simple, no tools needed. Unfortunately, my pants suffered a bit, but that's part of the job. Now it's back to Germany. I've arrived in the beautiful Black Forest at the second delivery point. They need a few minutes to get here because they're coming from the construction site, and I've already prepared everything. And now they'll get these beautiful pines. I'm usually glad when I can tell my deliveries apart, but I never studied Latin in school. When you look at the delivery note for plants, it's impossible to make sense of it because it's all written in Latin. Really funny, but all these landscapers know the names by heart. That was the third delivery point. Unfortunately, I didn't film outside. This is the Mundenhof in Freiburg, kind of like an urban garden center. There are all sorts of other things here. Horses and even a dog school. I've got a follow-up trip north of Ulm. Since I don't have much driving time left, I'll drive from Freiburg north to an Ionity station and spend my night there. They took quite a while to unload the trailer, but in the meantime I bought a car. I won't say which one, but the background is this. I have a Tesla Model Y, and that's officially a company car from ChargeX, but I don't need it anymore. I'll return it so that a salesperson can use it for long-distance trips. Right now I just need something for quick errands, like when I'm in Leer and need to get groceries. The new car is from a private seller, first-hand, and he could even tell me the whole history of the car. Puh, Glück gehabt. I was just a bit above 20%, and now I'm charging up to 100%. I got one of the last spots here. My trailer is parked in the back, and I'm calling it a day a bit earlier. It's been a long day, and I'm taking an 11-hour rest. That means tomorrow I'll be up at 3:30 and drive 4 hours to the loading site. They open at 7, and I'll arrive around 7:30. I have no idea what kind of load I'll be picking up, but it'll be a cross-country delivery. This charging station is pretty interesting because you can't get in from the front. There's a width limit, which is unusual in Germany. It says it's 2.5 meters, but I immediately saw that this is actually around 3 meters, so I could easily get in. I'll crash into bed soon and see what tomorrow brings, but I'll start with a fully charged battery, and that's always a great way to begin the day. See you tomorrow. Good morning. It's 3:30 in the night, and I've got a bit of a dilemma here. There are trucks lined up behind me, which is pretty normal. But this time, I can't get out forward either. When people arrive late for their breaks, parking becomes a real challenge. And when a truck finally leaves, others just back into those spots from the front because there are trucks lined up behind them as well. But you can still see how tricky it gets. Especially at night with trucks all around, there's always a risk of hitting something. Things are more relaxed at truck stops where you have to pay for parking, but since it's free here, it's absolutely packed. The worst case scenario just happened. The truck in front of me isn't just parked for a break, it broke down. Now I'm stuck. I can't get out. Why did it have to break down right in front of me? But there's not much I can do. Luckily, Man's truck service is here. Turns out the truck wouldn't start and couldn't be shifted into neutral either. The technician used a compressed air hose to get some air pressure back in the system, which apparently allowed them to switch to neutral, and now they can move a few meters forward. Unfortunate that it broke down right in front of me, but incredible timing that the technician showed up right now and not 2 hours later. Now it looks like they're moving and I can finally get out. I've already been on the road for 4 hours and just arrived at my loading point. I've got everything prepped. Basically took the whole trailer apart and loosened everything. Now they will load me with cut timber. It's going to be heavy. I'm in Bopfingen, east of Aalen, heading north. I had to wait before loading, so I set my tachograph to rest, which worked out perfectly. Now I've got fresh driving time and can keep going longer. I've got 45% battery, so I'll push a bit further north to Main Frankenpark. I've already driven close to 6 hours today, so after one more break, I can use my full 10 hours of driving. If I'd stopped earlier, I'd have had to take an extra break just for a short bit of driving, which wouldn't make sense. We're fully packed with around 23 tons of timber. It's a completely different driving feel compared to when the truck's empty. With this weight and high center of gravity, it's more like driving a heavy hauler, and I enjoy the challenge. Loading took 2.5 hours because I had to fully open both sides and strap everything down, which required some ladder work. I'm super hungry, so I'm looking forward to my lunch break. I'm in Main Frankenpark, and someone in the comments suggested I buy a little safety vest for Krummelix. I mean, if drivers have to wear safety vests, obviously driver dogs should too, right? Anyway, I'm charging at the Ionity station and it's totally empty right now. This charging station works perfectly every time. Full power, no issues with communication, and I know exactly how to position the truck. It's really nice when you can count on the charging process being 100% smooth. I'll be charging for about an hour. After that, I'll tackle the Castle Mountains and see how far I get today. But first, a much-needed lunch and catching up on a few emails. I've charged up to 90%, and I've got 4 hours and 23 minutes of driving time left. Now I can drive on without needing another break. My stop for the night is a truck stop 4 hours and 9 minutes away. That gives me a 15-minute buffer just in case I need to change plans. I talked about how I try to eat healthy on the road, but I'm not perfect. Sometimes convenience wins. And with a Burger King right across the charging station, it's hard to resist. That's probably one of the biggest downsides of driving an electric truck. Charging stations are always near fast food places, but today I needed it. Last night was super short, and the truck stop was noisy, so I didn't get the best rest. Here's a super interesting technical detail. This e-Vico has a usable battery capacity of 550 kilowatt hours, while the gross capacity is 738 kilowatt hours. But in theory, you can overcharge it. Not through a charging station, but through recuperation. If the battery is at 100% and you drive downhill, it can take in about 25 kilowatt hours more. That's basically 105% battery and a really smart buffer. And I also have a theory about the weirdly high energy consumption when I start driving after charging, where it briefly pulls over 100 kilowatts. I thought it was for heating or frost protection, but the heater maxes out at 40 kilowatts and nothing else would need more kilowatts. My new theory is that the battery cells are balancing. Electric vehicles need to balance their cells occasionally, making sure every cell charges and discharges evenly. If one weak cell reaches its minimum voltage, the whole vehicle stops working. So balancing is crucial. That's usually done when charging to 100%, and I believe this truck balances at up to 105%. Sometimes the station keeps charging at 200 kilowatts even after reaching 100% battery. I think that's part of the balancing process. When I start driving afterwards, the truck suddenly burns through a ton of energy, most likely using its immersion heaters to turn excess battery power into heat and make room for regenerative braking. For trucks, having that regen capacity is crucial. Unlike cars, they rely on secondary braking systems. This energy dump makes sure you still have full braking capability, even with a topped-up battery. You lose 25 kilowatt hours of energy, but there's really no better way to balance the cells and keep regenerative braking available. If you want to avoid this, you could stop charging at exactly 100%, but the cells wouldn't balance as well. Maybe the battery management system decides when balancing is needed. I'm not sure how deep the system goes, but it would make sense if it's that smart. Another test. Cruise control is set to 85 kilometers per hour or 53 miles per hour, and it's pulling 791 kilowatts. It doesn't go over 800 kilowatts, but that's already enough to keep 42 tons climbing at over 80 kilometers per hour. That's seriously impressive. There's even a message saying power reduced, but you don't feel any drop in performance. The truck handles this full load without breaking a sweat. We've got a downhill stretch here. I'm speeding up to 90 kilometers per hour and going full regen, 634 kilowatts. Because of the single-speed transmission, regen is strongest at higher speeds, and 634 kilowatts is just a crazy number. No other truck comes close to that. When accelerating, the power draw sometimes shows around 1,200 horsepower on the dash, but that's just peak power. Climbing earlier, it held steady at 791 kilowatts, which translates to 1,069 horsepower, and it kept that up consistently. The continuous power rating is only 480 kilowatts, so if the hill had been twice or 3 times as long, it might have eventually throttled back. But regardless, these are impressive numbers. But this is the most surprising thing. I've got 3 different consumption values here. The first for the last stretch, 40 tons through the Castle Mountains. The second for today, with some empty driving and some with 40 tons. And the third for the whole week, mostly carrying plants with a total weight of around 33 tons. And every single one is 1.2 kilowatt hours per kilometer or 1.9 kilowatt hours per mile. There are slight variations in the details, but basically, this truck doesn't seem to care whether it's going uphill, downhill, loaded, or empty. Wind, rain, and snow have a way bigger impact than the weight in the back, and that really surprises me. I could have just driven on, but it's getting busier and busier, so I'm saving myself the stress in the evening. The Alpitronics charging station has a swivel arm, which makes charging a bit more convenient. I think it's the small details that matter a lot, like how Aral doesn't make things more complicated than they need to be. They place the charging points right at the front, and then a camper or a larger vehicle can come too. It gives you a bit more flexibility. Some charging station operators put them in corners, so tight that no truck can charge there. In the long run, e-truckers will avoid those stations, and the operators will make less money. And another small detail, this gas station operator definitely drives an electric car because tucked away on the side is a first-generation Nissan Leaf. It has these LEDs in the front where you can see the charging process, and the cable comes out the front and goes into a little shed. It's funny that it happens quite often that these gas station operators drive electric vehicles themselves. I just grabbed some buns from the gas station for dinner. They're actually really warm and taste delicious. One thing I just noticed is that at this truck station, there's only one charging station. And that's unusual because at these truck charging parks from Aral, there are usually 2 Alpitronics units installed. I really hope Aral doesn't make a mistake here because on their website, it lists 2 300 kilowatt chargers. They've usually been very consistent, and I never noticed an error like this, but everything gets noticed on this channel. Every little detail gets documented. Here's a little insight into what I was hauling up the mountain yesterday. Wood. Everything is loaded securely, and I used a lot of straps. Now I'm only unloading the top bar. That's the only thing that gets delivered here. The forklift driver yesterday wanted me to secure everything, but then I would have had to undo 10 straps, take down the bar, and then climb up everywhere with a ladder and secure everything again. But at unloading stops, ladders are often not available. So securing everything in advance was key. I made sure everything was tightly strapped, and then just the top bar separately. Now they can take it off easily, and I don't have to break my neck securing everything again. Now I'm heading to the main unloading point. I need to be there by 11, and I'll be there at 10:30, so that's perfect. Once I'm in Sittensen, I'll fully charge the truck again and take a longer break. It's always a good feeling when you know what to expect during the day. I'm now at my unloading point, and things are moving along. I've taken the whole trailer apart again, and they're working hard here. Meanwhile, I'm taking a walk with the dog. It's pretty busy here at the moment. Not sure why it's so crowded around lunchtime. And the charger is right next to this truck here. When you know the charging station, it's all so much easier. "250 out of 300 kilowatts is coming through the charger, but it's fine because I'm doing a bit of smart charging. And by smart charging, I mean really dumb charging, because I will calculate everything manually. I want to figure out how much energy I'll need for the rest of the day, because I know exactly what's going to happen, so I don't end up charging too much publicly, since the electricity at the depot is cheaper. I'm heading to Oldenburg, then Emden, and then back to Leer. That's 215 kilometers. It's super windy today, so I'll calculate with the higher consumption that I had today. I'll estimate 1.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. 1.4 kilowatt hours times 215 kilometers means I need 301 kilowatt hours. 301 divided by the 550 kilowatt hours of the truck means I'd need 54% of the battery. I'll add a 10% buffer, so I'll stop at 65%. Let's see if it turns out as I expected. I've arrived in Emden, and I've already driven 209 kilometers. The calculated energy I was planning with is already used up. I didn't enter the addresses exactly, and in both Oldenburg and in Emden, they are far away from the city center. I've got 14% left in the battery because the consumption was a little lower than expected, but now I have to make sure I still make it home. These experiments and optimizations make a lot of sense, but you really need to know what you're doing. And you should enter the exact addresses into the navigation system, not just estimate them roughly. I was a bit shocked, but it should still work out, because I'm driving back empty. Mission accomplished. It did get a bit tight though. Instead of 215 kilometers, I drove 243 kilometers. But that's why you plan with buffers. If everything always ran perfectly, you wouldn't need a buffer. I'm at 7%, and it's showing 0 kilometers of range. But what I wanted to show you is the savings effect. I charged to 65%, so I avoided charging 192 kilowatt hours. I pay 39 cents per kilowatt hour at the charging station, while around 15 cents at the depot. That's a 24-cent difference per kilowatt hour. And if we multiply that by 192 kilowatt hours, I saved almost 50 euros with this strategy. But this only worked because it's the end of the day and I don't have any driving time left. But having 50 euros or not makes a difference. That's why I find experiments like this important. Planning your charging can be a huge money and time saver. Now, I'm going to bed and we'll catch up tomorrow. Today is Friday and I didn't drive the truck because I had to take care of a couple of appointments, and I also received a little Christmas gift. Iveco sent me this cool Advent truck with cookies inside. Unfortunately, it still has a diesel tank, so there's still work to be done, but it's a really cool gesture. Big thanks to them. Now the week is done. You can see that most of the electric trucks are also back, and I'm now cleaning the truck so it's ready for Monday. I wish you all a nice weekend and I'll see you next time.